Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the P1 podcast with Matt and Tommy. Yes, Tommy has returned from celebrating love, and he decided, you know what, I'll turn up for the race. I'll turn up to chat about the race. The Bahrain Grand Prix should be a good one on paper, and it was on paper and in real life very good. Tommy.
Oh, it was very good. My reward for missing yesterday was getting to witness seeing P20 Max Verstappen at one point in the race, which I didn't think I've seen for a very long time, if ever. And it was a great race though. I am just, despite Verstappen's result, I'm just happy because we had the race we were promised. A lot of the time, when the anticipation is so high, sometimes it under-delivers. But I think we just got a great race there.
There was a point in the race where Tommy had his head in his hands, where Max Verstappen came out of the pits in 20th, and it was a moment I had dreamed of, seeing Tommy's pain. But it didn't last long.
And then five laps later, you were leaving the room because Charles Leclerc was on hard tyres, so you got your comeuppance immediately.
I certainly did. Right, we'll get into everything Bahrain Grand Prix, but before we do, a quick shout out to our wonderful Patreons who'll be getting extra chat at the end of every single race review across the season, where we do 10 to 15 minutes to answer more questions from you guys and just give you a little bit more premium waffle. And there's a lot to talk about from this one. I think it was a brilliant race. I really enjoyed it. We didn't have one overtake for the lead, but it still was the best race of the season, in my opinion. Tommy, let's start with your most memorable moment.
My most memorable moment was different strategies. And like you say, I think on paper, if you'd have said that you get two races, one where the winner is just never gets seen at any point, to the point where he's shown in a mini box winning the race, but we'll get into that later.
Don't you start with that now, Tommy. Wow.
And then the last race, where we had the top three separated by about a second and a half for the entire race, and one of them was terrible, one of them was great, you'd probably pick the wrong one. But no, this race was so great. And the reason was because of strategy. I've got a screenshot on my phone from lap 34, and I put this on Twitter saying I've prayed for times like these because it's so true. The tyre graphic at this point in the race, 34 laps into a 57-lap race, was medium, soft, hard, medium, hard, 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 medium, hard, hard, soft, soft, medium, soft, hard, 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 medium, soft, hard, medium. We need that every single weekend, because the problem with Formula One, particularly now we don't have, I know refueling's long gone, but now we don't have refueling. If you have a one-stop race, it's just always going to be most of the time dull, because they all start on the same tyres, they all finish on the same tyres. Whereas because we actually got drivers, it was still difficult to overtake. There was still a challenge. You could see the dirty air was tricky. But because the cars were all on different tyres, the race ebbed and flowed, and you had some people quick and then they were a bit slower. And it was just so good. Like that is what we need. And it can be achieved if we just had some degrading tyres, basically.
I completely agree. I love strategy. Oh, wow, I'm choking up right now. You love strategy as well. I mean, you yourself, I think, were a white-walled Pirelli tyre for most of that race. So it was really great.
P20.
I love how I was mocking you, and he literally finished 2 positions behind Charles in the end, which is absolutely outrageous.
Crazy.
But we'll get on to that. The strategies were awesome to see. It was so hard to keep up at points, because there were drivers out there on 20-lap-old soft tyres trying to go really long. You had others that had gone for aggressive undercuts. Ocon, for example, I think was one of them that managed to get himself absolutely in the mix, and it worked out for him, maybe saved a little bit by the safety car towards the end. But you just had this massive variety of races unfolding, which made for not just intrigue as to who's going to be fast at what points, but overtakes. Having an abrasive track surface like Bahrain caused for a non-repeat of Japan, where everyone had similar tyre life and no one could really get through. Here, you didn't know where to look. You had 4 cars going into turn 1 at points, and it was just Brilliant. I really enjoyed it. I can't remember a race I enjoyed as much as this when the leader had checked out from pretty much lap one.
And
but
won
that's
by
just
15 seconds.
Exactly.
And we're here saying it was probably the race of the year so far.
Now, I know that some people will go, yeah, but what about Australia? I prefer a race like this every single day over in Australia. Australia is entertaining in its own right. You have the craziness, the sliding off and things like that. Don't get me wrong. I love that. But as a hardcore Formula One fan that's watched the sport now for, goodness gracious, like 25 years, maybe more, and the reason why last year my favourite was Silverstone was because there was more to it than just a bit of craziness. There were loads of different drivers changing positions, and obviously I'm not likening today to Silverstone, but I don't know, it just felt like a proper race where there wasn't any random showers and things like that. It was just drivers fighting for their lives out there, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Question from @precision_Peter. Should the mandatory 2-stop rule be used at every race, not just Monaco? Bahrain showed how much excitement and potential for different strategy there is with multiple pit stops. No, I don't think so. We haven't seen how Monaco is going to unfold. Bahrain worked because Bahrain was a 2-stop, not because it was forced to be a 2-stop. If we have and go to tracks that are less abrasive, are we going to get the same kind of race? I don't think so. When we start putting in too many, it has to be this, it has to do this, I think you're kind of forcing it in a lot of ways, and then it's a question of where do we draw the line here and keep it a legit sport. But don't get me wrong, the 2-stop was great. I want to see more 2-stops, but I would like that to be introduced through the medium of, pardon the pun, because I'm talking about tyres, but tyres degrading, rather than you have to pit twice and that's the rule.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, this race probably does help the kind of thing that we've discussed in a while of potentially having in Formula One, you have to use all 3 compounds of tyre, and then of course that means you would have a 2-stop. But then I guess the other argument to that is the reason it was so good is because if that happened, you could still get in a situation where everyone goes hards at the start, then they all switch to mediums, then they all switch to soft. Whereas the reason here was that people went medium, and then at the end, because there was just enough laps and it was kind of borderline, this is what we saw between Russell and Leclerc, for example, one went for softs, one went for hards, and it was kind of a toss-up between how that was going to kind of pay out. So mandatory 2-stop, we don't need to be that extreme. We just need the tyres to be a bit more unpredictable in terms of like degradation, but not. And this is the problem that we've seen in previous races is not at the moment they degrade to the point where you can just save them the whole race, which is when you get boring races because everyone just thinks about tyres. But you almost need them more extreme, that we then see this kind of moment, because people were having to pit. It looked like, people would. There was one point where we thought people were going to do like a 3-stop, for example, because until the safety car, because they just kept thinking on their feet. Really, it was almost like it felt like a race where we had a sprint where they haven't had a lot of practice, where they didn't know what to do, and this is what we need is those moments where it's not just laid out on paper. This is the Pirelli tyre strategy. Do it. It's strategists and teams thinking on their feet, going, "Oh, there's a safety car. Oh, this has changed. Oh, actually, the hards aren't very good, so we need to do this or we need to do that." That is what Formula One needs, and this race is just complete proof that this is the thing that will fix everything, like all those kind of overtaking problems. Because overtaking was still difficult, but it was just right that you still, could have overtakes and strategy, and it made it good.
It was the perfect storm today, because Bahrain is a great track for racing. It's wide enough for drivers to go side by side and to have these moves. Everywhere. So it's not going to work when we go to others, because the fundamental problem is the cars. And, if we had this abrasive circuit around Japan, would we have had a better race? Yes. Would we have a 2-stop? Potentially. But I think Bahrain is definitely one of the best tracks on the calendar. Back to your point about the sprint, and this is what I said to Alex after qualifying, was that leading into qualifying and this weekend, FP1 and FP3 were a write-off. It doesn't matter that they've had 3 practice sessions. Only one of them was anywhere near representative. So we've had exactly the same running. Well, no, it's not getting rid of though, is it? It's make them unrepresentative. Make them to a level where they have to use a different set of tires. But then again, it's the argument of where do we? Then the team's like, well, why are we running anyway?
Yeah, exactly.
So the fact that they're forced into it, then it would just get into a very difficult discussion, I think, between the teams.
Every track is a
F1.
night race, and then you run FP1
they
and
all
FP3
need to change.
in the day.
Or maybe you have FP1 at midnight, and even when it's a daytime thing, that's when you
with no
FP2's
lights,
in the day,
that would
FP3's
guaranteed to be carnage.
Yeah, that would be carnage. But yes, it certainly did work in Bahrain, and we're not surprised, are we? Because we knew it was a track that can work with these cars, and throw in the 2-stop, and it was brilliant to watch.
Great.
Okay, let's go to my most memorable moment, and it is the kind of final laps between Russell, Norris, and Leclerc. I don't know how positively I will look back at this, because Leclerc came out the worst of all of this. When I say memorable, it doesn't necessarily need to be a good memory. It's a memory all the same. Of course, you kind of rewind to the safety car and the decision that was made by Ferrari. P1 Patreon member Zingy13, should Ferrari have put on the softs at the safety car stop, given that everybody who had run the hards were complaining that they were bad? Yes, I think Ferrari were in a little bit of a difficult spot where I'd like to think the strategy team have said, right, if there's a safety car up until this point, we'll probably have to put the hards on, because they had to put either the hards or the softs on. Without the safety car, I think Charles was looking really good for a podium finish. He would have gone a little bit longer than everybody else and then boxed for softs and been pretty quick. May have won the race. Probably not. But that didn't happen. There was a safety car, and it came out with like 24 laps to go, which was on the limit. Russell was surprised to see the softs go on his car, but he did a great job in making that work, and some drivers behind as well managed that as well. So in hindsight, yes, and I was disappointed even at the time that they decided to go for the hards, which was like a safe option, but not even really that safe. I mean, we saw Leclerc around the final corner as they were restarting the action. He almost lost it because the hards were so horrendous with the tyre warm-up, and Norris was all over the back of him. So it was a conservative approach, one with which I wish they had just. I mean, what have they got to lose? They're not fighting for the constructors already. I mean, they're out the shot.
Savage.
Is fourth and fifth what they're kind of happy to finish? It just didn't feel like the correct decision then, and it definitely doesn't feel like the correct decision now, because again, Ferrari didn't even look bad on their tyres. Charles was going long. He was doing pretty well. Obviously, he started on the mediums, but he was still able to keep them what looked like in a good window.
It was the safer option, wasn't it, to go for the hard tyres, I guess, because Russell, of course, was very much like, oh, that's a long way to go on the soft tyres, and in hindsight, yes, that did work out better. I think it'd be easy to kind of beat up Ferrari and say, bring out the clown memes and say that they're ridiculous. I don't think it's that bad personally.
No,
I think they were, of course, very unlucky, because I think Ferrari were playing actually a really good strategic race up until that point.
Well, you cooked them on the watch along, didn't you? You were like, I'm not sure about this one. They should have gone for the one stop.
Yeah, I thought they should go longer, but doing. Unfortunately for them, the timing of the safety car meant they'd gone medium, and then there was quite a long part of the race left where they had to commit between soft and hard, so I see why they went for that. Yeah, it'd be easy to bring out like the clown memes and stuff for Ferrari and say that it was a joke, but I think they were unlucky with the timing of the safety car, because it was looking quite good. I'd have loved to have seen an alternate world. I'm not complaining, because of course we saw that really good race.
Where Charles Leclerc wins. Yeah, I agree.
Well, no, just an alternate race where we did see how that strategy for Ferrari paid out, because they would have gone longer on the mediums into the race, potentially, and then maybe they could have pitted quite late and then gone aggressive on the softs. I don't think they were ever beating the McLarens, and of course Russell is also very quick, of course, as time of recording. might get disqualified as well. So if that, sorry, not disqualified, a penalty.
Gracious me,
a
Tommy's,
penalty.
He's your good surprise for the weekend. Why are you trying to channel a disqualification?
A penalty. He still might get the penalty. So 4-5. I know it's disappointing based on where they were, but that is kind of where Ferrari are, sadly, with their car. So it's not the end of the world.
Not the end of the world, no. Definitely not worthy of clown memes. But just a decision that could have gone one way or another. But it would have been interesting to see, firstly, the world where the safety car didn't come out at all, and also one where they went on softs. Okay, let's go to the next question. At Imperator QG, does Lando need to be more aggressive with his overtakes to win this championship? It's hard to say whether it's aggression or if it's just making the right decisions. There were a lot of feints to the inside but never going. I would say he was aggressive enough because he locked up at times and misjudged. So the aggression was there, but the amount of times we saw that kind of look to the inside but it never happened, that is the rule 101. That's the first thing you learn, is down the inside into a hairpin is probably going to be the move for you.
Best way, yeah.
But it maybe there just wasn't the confidence under braking for Lando that perhaps other drivers have, or just in that McLaren, whatever it might be. I don't think he's not aggressive enough, but I would say that his racecraft when it comes to making those moves is something he needs to improve on if he does want to win this championship, especially if he's going to have these moments in qualifying where he is 5th, 6th on the grid and has to get through the field in order to potentially fight Oscar. He was up to 3rd on lap 1. Of course, he had that 5-second penalty, but you're wondering, okay, maybe it's on. And you put Max Verstappen in that scenario, in that car, he's through to 2nd in a matter of laps, and he's chasing down his teammate for the win. I have no doubt in my mind that would be it. So Lando does need to improve his racecraft when it comes to overtaking, in my opinion.
He does. I got kind of deja vu from the race in Austin, actually, watching Lando try and pass Charles and thinking, how has he not passed him yet? Because he's in a much quicker car, a car that's winning the race by 16 seconds, and he needs to be making those moves. I feel like you could argue that to win a championship, this is something we've kind of praised Lewis Hamilton for, is to not do anything silly, don't take your front wing off. Sometimes that kind of approach is just about picking up points in the consistency over a 24-race championship. But at the same time, Lando doesn't have that advantage to maybe be like that this early on, because Oscar, despite a nightmare race in Australia that we thought that's going to be really costly for the World Championship, and it's a massive point swing in Lando's favour, Oscar's now only 3 points behind him in the championship. And Lando can't just be picking up points. I mean, it was a messy P3, and he could even end up being he could still end up being a P2 if George does get a penalty. But he just didn't look very convincing. He made that amazing start that we were all going, oh, finally Lando's got a good start, but then he's messed up the pit box. Obviously, he had a disaster yesterday.
Grid box.
I always say pit box. Grid box. Grid box that he's had the issue with. And then in the race, a few lockups, kind of getting... I think Charles's move was aggressive, but he kind of got bullied out the way. Obviously, couldn't pass George, which I think other drivers may have been a bit more ruthless and made it stick. So it's a weird thing to say when Lando started the year with a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, to think that it's kind of a bit disappointing. But I think there are a bit kind of worrying signs there so far that he does need to kind of be a bit more ruthless and be more aggressive, because he can't play that kind of safe approach for a whole season if Piastri is driving the way he is. The lead's already eroding massively.
Yep, the step up from Oscar this year has been pretty pretty awesome. Of course, that mistake in Australia costing him dearly. Without that, he would be handsomely in the lead of this championship, but he has also got mistakes in him, and that's what's going to make this championship very interesting to watch as it unfolds. Sadly, we still didn't get to see an Oscar Lando fight out on track, and I would have loved to have seen that around Bahrain.
Yeah, we need to see that at some point, don't we?
Yeah, we'll have to wait another 8 races for the next track that we can overtake on. No, I'm kidding. Saudi's coming up, so that should be, fingers crossed, a good one as well. Next question, P1 Patreon member Hades Ash. With a solid weekend like that, does Oscar look more like the favourite this year? Ooh, I'm trying not to be too knee-jerk here, because we do love doing that as Formula One fans. Oscar is on a great trajectory. He's shown from the get-go that he's right there with Lando. I believe the momentum is with Oscar now. If he can continue this over a 24-race calendar, we've not seen it from either of the drivers, whether they can keep this consistency up. I think Oscar is definitely more ruthless, more ice in the veins than Lando is. Lando is, he feels the emotions more, or at least shows the emotions more. We see that a lot, whether it's in interviews or whatever it might be. That can work in his favour. And as I said, sort of pre-season, I think that once Lando gets some momentum, he can also win races on the bounce, in my opinion. But right now, he's definitely on the back foot. All he's got to do is beat his teammate, I think, in order to win this championship now, unless Red Bull can figure it out when some changes come in race 9 for Barcelona.
Sounds like his infamous quote about Hamilton. That sounds a lot like you only have to beat one car, but yeah.
Yeah, but
at this rate,
it's Oscar Piastri.
Like it. Yeah.
And Lando, if he just, it's so difficult, isn't it? Like I think it's hard to crown a favourite, because I think it could go literally either way.
I'll be knee-jerk then and say yes, Oscar's the favourite.
I knew you would.
I think he's looked better than Lando this season so far. I'm not going to beat around the bush about it. I think he has, in my opinion, of course. It has been close. Lando's the one, of course, leading the championship, but I kind of felt this after Japan, that he's had a very good start to the season. Even the 2 races where he's been behind Lando, he's been chasing him and looking quick, but obviously had troubles passing due to one of the tracks being impossible to pass at, and the other one, of course, had that mistake, which was costly, of course. But that was a big statement drive from Oscar Piastri, I think, yes, he's got the quickest car underneath him. He's even, I think quite rightly, said it himself that, yes, I can't pretend that I don't have the best car. And I think it's quite clear that Oscar is a lot more comfortable in that car. I know people are roasting Lando for saying that, or he's trying to kind of make excuses and stuff, but I do genuinely think that Oscar is more comfortable in that car. Maybe it suits more of his driving style or something. But whatever the case, Oscar is the one that's looking very, very good right now. He's looking incredibly quick. It is just about that consistency, if he can do it over the whole season. But so far, he's just looking very comfortable in that car. I think the telling point is when we get to that 9 races in, when we have that big regulation or rule change, or whatever you want to call it, with the front wing. If McLaren are still rapid, then it is going to be a 2-horse race between the McLarens probably, and it's whether this car and Oscar driving it is still comfortable in it, because at the moment, yeah, he's looking so good.
Yeah, the reason for my hesitation when it comes to who I think is the favourite here is that I do genuinely think outright pace, even into the 3rd season of Piastri's career and whatnot, I think Norris is the quicker driver when he overcomes his demons. I just don't want his demons to take over here and for mistakes to creep in, because I still do think
quite a lot already. Like,
yeah,
really.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There has been a lot, but also he's leading the championship. So you also can't be too harsh on him.
Oh, no, yeah.
He will be very happy that he's leading the championship after 4 races. Yes, it's not gone the best way it possibly could. But you have mistakes in... I think it's because we're so used to a Verstappen or a Hamilton leading the championship and driving away and being so consistent that we expect that from anyone that's leading the championship. But at some point, people need to accept that some of these drivers are not on the same level as Verstappen and Hamilton. Maybe they will be one day, but they're not right now. And those two are generational talents that we've seen in the last 5-10 years. That's why I'm on the fence slightly. But if Lando overcomes his demons, mate. I think who's the favourite will chop and change as we go across this year. I don't think it will be a case of Oscar running away with it, if that's where we deem the momentum to be. Next question, P1 Patreon member Winter Ted. With George being on the podium, should they be investigating his issue before the end of the race? I'm always in favour of get everything sorted before the podium, please. But in Formula One, with 12 million different rules, it just never is going to happen. I mean, I'm constantly refreshing my feed right now to see if the George Russell penalty or not non-penalty comes through. It probably will come in whilst we're doing this podcast. So I think in this occasion, no, they have to investigate. Why? Because
it's not a slam dunk. I saw basically, just to go on this, I saw some people going, well, if Lando got his penalty deemed so quickly, why is this one taking so long? But Lando, you can literally see it. It's a is or it isn't. Whereas this, it does need investigating. So I don't want to be too harsh on the stewards here, because it needs looking at properly rather than making a knee-jerk reaction.
It's weird though, isn't it? Because it depends how you look at it.
I guess if it depends. You say we don't know the evidence, do we?
The land. Yeah, exactly. And I think that is the case. Is that his DRS did open when it shouldn't have, and they're now investigating why that happened and whether he needs a penalty. Surely, and this is no disrespect to George, but in every other realm of the F1 FIA rulebook, it's, well, if your car doesn't pass all of these tests, whether it's floor height, whatever, then you get penalty or disqualification. Why is this any different if they've had an electrical fault in their car? It's still a fault. The DRS opens when it's not supposed to be. From where I sit, that should just be your DRS opened and it wasn't in a DRS zone. That's a 5-second penalty or whatever it might be. I don't know what circumstances, other than Mercedes going, well, we had a fault with our car, for them to go, actually, don't worry about it.
Yeah, because if I don't know, it'd be quite easy to say, there's been so many incidents where you can't really say, oh, if someone, say, I don't know, you can have a fault with your car when you plow into the side of someone or something. I don't know, that it is kind of a black and white thing. So yeah, if that is the case and they have seen that there is a DRS, it's been opened outside the zone or whatever, or not when he's meant to, surely that is slam dunk.
Unless there's a reason that they want to, if there's reason to believe that it's actually nothing to do with his car and it's something to do with how his car is communicating with some DRS sensor, or
I've never seen that as well, because that was such a weird thing to
the
happen.
Transponder was
we've not mentioned it yet, but his car just seemed like he was in all sorts of problems. He made a joke that, well, as long as the steering wheel doesn't fall off, because he even said at one point that he was potentially going to lose, all his information. We saw what was happening with the timing tower, which we'll get into, of him flopping and changing all over the place. And then, of course, all the cars around him, because his
he had a brake-by-wire failure where his brakes were going long and then short, and it was constantly changing. I mean, he did an incredible job to still finish second.
He did. And it was a great drive from George. It would be a real shame if he did end up with a penalty.
Of course, you're saying that so you can cash in on a good surprise. I see straight through that. Next question. Kotai Ryu. Genuine question. What is going on with the F1 graphics? Everything seems to go wrong every race. It's... I mean, you would think that is absolutely priority. Absolute priority that the graphics work. I don't know whether they've changed the programming behind it or whatever it might be, but it's not been a great start to the year for F1 graphics, and just generally TV direction as well, I think, has been poor at times, especially in this race. Now, I was quite aggrieved. I went over on Twitter and I was like, why have they got rid of the live timing, full stop, just because of George Russell's transponder issues? Because every other driver's transponder was working. I was literally logged into Multiviewer and looking at the live timing there. It's not as if everything went down and it didn't work. In my opinion, what they've seen is, oh my God, Russell's going up and down the leaderboard. This looks terrible. Let's have a clean feed of just the cars going round. All Formula One fans around the world do not care if Russell's jumping up and down a little bit, as long as we can see the other gaps. We are not in 1990 where we need to have gap intervals each lap and have a graphic come up. That's old news, boy. No. I want it now. And it genuinely, every time it happens, I realise just how much I stare at those times all the time. It is constant brain scratching. Lost. Yeah, it feels like a practice session. So it's not good enough. I'll be completely and utterly frank with that, and not your dog, because it is a paramount part of watching Formula One is that those things work. It's not the same with football or tennis or whatever. You can see what's going on. You see the whole picture there and then. That leaderboard or graphic or whatever it might be is part of the viewing experience.
Tells you everything that's going on the track, because you can't, like you say, you can't see every driver. So you need to know, like, oh, that person's gained a bit. And for them to basically get rid of the whole thing just because they're maybe embarrassed that it's a bit of a meme that Russell's bouncing up and down the timing tower is not the right way to go, in my opinion.
And then they tried to fix it and broke the whole thing. And then they got it back up. Russell was in second and none of the live timings were updating properly.
Yeah, and it was really weird because even at the end, when Max obviously made his move, and we'll get onto the TV direction missing that later, but Max made his move and obviously that didn't update until pretty much as they were crossing the line, which showed that the whole thing was just completely broken at this point. And yeah, you can't predict that George was going to have those issues, but it's not good enough from Formula One, this multi-billion-dollar sport and all the money they're making and how much they're charging fans and everything, to have that experience where they can't basically put on, especially because we're having such a good race as well. It's not to the point where I'm like, oh my God, it's completely ruined the race, but it was very annoying because at the end, we're having such a good race. There was so much strategy going on. There were people kind of, and it does take away from the experience not to see that, because you're so used to it now and it is such a big part of Formula One. We've evolved so much more than just watching the cars on the track. We need to know this information, and that is part of the Grand Prix and part of what makes it enjoyable. So yeah, a shocker from F1, from the graphics, and then even worse was the TV direction, I think.
It certainly was. I think that there were moments that just really peed us off. Question, gotta keep walking. Can we start a petition to have Matt and Tommy take over TV direction? Coverage has been absolutely terrible this year. Bahrain was the worst yet. There was a moment, I think, Tommy, you shrieked, have some wheel knowledge, was when it was Leclerc and Norris. The switchback of dreams was happening, I think, for Norris out of turn one. And we were focusing on Hamilton passing whoever it might have been at that point. And we could see the 3/10, 2/10, 1/10, and then we cut when they're side by side. Now, we didn't miss it completely, but then we had an onboard of Leclerc, I believe it was. So then we didn't know where Norris was at the time. So again, it's like we need to see the pic. We don't get many overtakes, okay, as Formula One fans. We don't get a lot. We've had some tough couple of races, and we finally get overtakes. We need to see them, okay? If in doubt, go to the offboard. Just show us a lovely little, at the turn, whatever it might be. Why are we doing that? It wasn't good enough, and it's disappointing, isn't it? We go back to the whole, how much money does this sport make? Can we please just we've been talking about the TV direction for so many years. And there are periods of time where it's decent. But then you watch a race like Bahrain and go, have they got the interns in? Like, why is it such a marked difference to what we've seen in previous races?
I I'm sick to death of actually just constantly having this conversation on this podcast.
Yeah, but you're going to pop off anyway.
I'm going to pop off anyway
Come
about
on.
it because it's a
Here
joke.
we go. Everybody get your popcorn, sit back, relax. Tom Bellingham's about to pop off.
How many times we have to keep saying just allow someone that understands Formula One racing to control the TV direction? Because like you say, we were watching that. Yeah, of course they're showing Hamilton's move, but Leclerc versus Norris was literally for the podium positions. So that has to take priority because it's the podium and the higher positions. And we're getting that amazing battle. And I understand the frustration and the difficulty of Formula One when you are getting overtakes that are happening while overtakes are happening and you're trying to capture everything. But we've gone from the last race where they were literally showing Charles Leclerc's pit stop during the only moment of the entire race, where you could literally see, I know going back to Japan, but you could literally see them leave the pit, so you knew they were going to be side by side. So anyone with any knowledge would go, stick on that camera because they're going out side by side. And equally with this one, you saw Leclerc and Norris go into the corner. It just needs someone that knows how cars are positioned and how they race and have that Formula One knowledge to know that Norris is now going to get an amazing run down that straight. So show it. They missed Max Verstappen's move as well on Gasly on the final lap. I put something about the fact that they showed Oscar Piastri in a mini box, and some people were going, oh, but we've complained for years that they don't show the leaders. Norris and Russell were never going to change at that point. You could have shown them in the mini box and I've respected it, but there was no. When do you ever see an overtake into the final corner at Bahrain? Never. So it's just respectful to show the winner of the race and then show the mini box, so you keep on. So just in case something absolutely crazy, but it was never going to happen. And there's just so many moments like that where you just feel like the person in charge is not having the same understanding as the fans at home that know Max is in 2/10 here. He's going to have a run at Gasly into that corner, which he's already tried once. Why aren't you cutting to it? Why aren't we seeing them in a mini box? All these moments, and it's just so frustrating to watch.
I genuinely thought it was borderline disrespectful to not show Oscar Piastri coming over the line with the big box. It made absolutely no sense. I think in any situation, apart from if it's a championship fight and they're 5th and 6th on the final lap in Abu Dhabi and they're going for the world title, fine. Then we put them in the mini box. Someone else wins. Congratulations. Any other scenario, you have the winner in the main feed and then a small box if you want to show something. Absolutely every time. I don't care what anyone says about that, because Oscar has not been shown the entire race because he's dominated. He deserves that moment where everybody looks at him coming over the line to celebrate. I don't feel any differently apart from that about that particular situation. So why they decided that, I'm not sure.
If they were side by side, which they never were going to be.
No,
because
it was
you
never
can't
on.
Overtake at that point of the track. And
no, it was
that
never
again
on.
Comes to someone that knows Formula One and with a bit of wheel knowledge that knows that is never on at that part of the track.
Exactly. Wow, goodness gracious me! Look at us. We've lost it, Tommy. We've absolutely lost our marbles. Let's speak about maybe your marbles being lost. P1 Patreon member Thimma, is it now officially championship back off for Verstappen? Tommy, why don't you give us your thoughts? Come on. How are we feeling as a Max fan right now? I mean, you salvaged a P6 somehow. Nice safety car merchant. How are we feeling?
Very, very conflicted, because when I saw that Max Verstappen P20 graphic, I think we said, didn't we, on the watch along, he's not scoring a point here.
So for context, this was when he came out the pits
in P20,
about lap 30 odd, and he was literally 20th behind Bortoletto. Yeah.
He'd had a slow stop because the Red Bull light didn't work. The car's terrible and not working. He's been put on a terrible strategy with the hard tyres, and then they didn't even put the tyre on properly when he changed. And I was here thinking,
is this
how is it? Yeah. How has it got this bad? This is the team that were dominating Formula One this time last year, and they're making errors. They're making strategy errors. They're making pit stop errors. The car is slow. Max Verstappen is 20th and last in the Grand Prix, regardless of it being strategy. He is 20th and last. And if you'd have said, would you take would you take a P8 at that point? I'd have said absolutely. So P6, how far Red Bull have fallen that you'd take a P6? But it is true in that situation. And I watched that race thinking, my God, it really is going to be a McLaren P2. But it is funny that literally last week we were talking about Max is there, isn't he? And he is driving an absolute S-box at the moment. And he's 8 points behind in the championship. He just needs to hang on until maybe that rule change comes in round 9 to give him an opportunity, because 8 points isn't a lot, really, at this stage of the season. But it's not looking good for Max at all, is it?
It's not looking good, bruv. Not at all. I think that Bahrain is a unique track compared to the first 3 that we've had, as for the things we've mentioned, the tyres and everything else. It was a different kettle of fish to the first 3. He'll have to hope that going into Saudi, different track once again, very high speed, that perhaps he won't be as bad as Bahrain, and it'll just be a one-off. I don't think you can really ring the alarm bells just yet. The fact that Max has finished 6th is utterly ridiculous. Even that, I think, is a brilliant drive from him. He was on the back foot.
Mad, isn't it?
He was on the back foot for literally, as you mentioned, every part of his race.
And I can already hear. I know you joked about safety car merchant and stuff, but it's funny how all these drivers that have these moments are always lucky. There's always a reason, but he's finished 6th again, and all these people that said his. I think in the last race were going, the Red Bull isn't that bad. We saw how bad that car was. The first race of the season, he's been flattered by essentially wet weather, and we all know he's the best driver in the wet, to finish almost within a tenth of the win. And then Suzuka, he's put in an absolute godly qualifying lap, a circuit you can't overtake. So he's been able to manage to stay ahead of the McLarens. He should not be where he is in the championship at all with that car, but he is. So you can't write him off yet, but he's 35 seconds off the lead when there was a safety car. And he was battling what felt like Ocon the entire race.
Which is not something you expected coming into Bahrain.
Exactly.
That's for sure.
Ocon in a Haas. So, yeah, he's still in the fight, but I am so much less confident now about him challenging for this championship than I was, and I know it's only one race, but this is more.
Love it! Look at this. You are showing your. You wouldn't last a week if you were a Ferrari fan. You really wouldn't. But boo-hoo, Tommy. You've got a bad car now. Deal with it. Oh God, I'm drinking it in right now. Welcome to the pain club. We can both just enjoy McLaren dominance this year. At least I don't have to, speak to you smugly every single weekend about Max winning by 30 seconds, and we can both be in the pain boat. Okay, I think I kind of echo what you say in terms of Max. It's hard to write him off at this point. I still don't think we should write him off, but let's see. Let's wait till after Saudi at the very least. Next question, P1 Pitch. Remember, Wilderness Ted, is Yuki the answer to Red Bull's second driver problem? Yuki had an all right race, I don't think he had quite the same amount of painful moments that Max did, and Yuki was still definitely slower than Max. Let's not be too crazy about this. Yeah. But he scored points, and I am totally fine with that. That's I think I expected slightly faster Yuki Tsunoda, but then again, if you look comparatively to where Max was, it's probably what can be considered a decent performance from Yuki. So where did he finish in the end? P9. 45 seconds off. He was 10 seconds behind Max at the end there. So yeah, it was good enough, I would say, for Yuki, getting his first points for Red Bull, finishing ahead of both RBs that had shockers, to be honest with you. So I don't know if he's the answer yet, but he's figuring out the question, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
I actually think he's kind of embarrassed Red Bull a little bit here that they didn't put him in the first place, because with absolutely no testing, And yet he's gone to a track that he knows a bit better and had the practice time. But Liam Lawson led us to believe that car was undrivable, and you couldn't even score a point. You couldn't even not finish last
Beat
in
the
it,
Saubers.
basically.
Yeah,
genuinely. And Yuki Tsunoda has finished, 10 seconds off Max. He scored points, had a bit of a messy race in moments where maybe Red Bull's kind of decision not to put him in. I was a little bit wincing sometimes when he was sticking his nose and going, Yuki, don't take your front wing off. This is what Red Bull were worried about promoting you in the first place. But he has finished in a good position. And Lawson's form, just while we're on the subject, is woeful. I mean, the fact that he has gone back into the RB that a lot of people thought was quicker, and people quicker than the second Red Bull, whatever you think of that seat and cursed or whatever. People expected Lawson to be potentially even beating Tsunoda, and Lawson's having an absolute shocker. He got 2 penalties for crashing into people. He's got no pace. Nowhere. Just an absolutely awful race from him. And Yuki's done a good job, which shows Red Bull why did you not stick him in the first place? Because he has certainly not done that bad at all.
Still have no idea why they chose Lawson over Tsunoda. There was nothing really to go off that. As
they decided to not go for the driver with money from the engine, more experience, and more fans, and they went, No,
we like the underdog.
Yeah,
bring the underdog in. Here we go.
Oh, he's finished 20th.
We'll get rid
twice.
of the underdog very quickly.
Yeah,
okay,
just for driver experts, Horner and Marco, they do make a lot of crap decisions, don't they?
Oh, Tommy, that was a naughty word for the podcast. Goodness gracious me! Usually you see that on Twitch. I think what you're saying is completely correct. Yuki was the decision. When it's the 2 drivers of Lawson and Tsunoda, whether he's the answer to their problems, which is kind of what I was more leaning towards.
It depends what the answer to the problem's in, because if Max disappears at the next race, they're absolutely screwed because they've got a car built around, made for Max Verstappen, and he's not driving from next year, and they don't have a star driver. So at the moment, he's in a good spot, and they're doing what he should be doing. So I'm impressed so far.
Yeah, a good step up from Yuki this weekend. Okay, let's head to our predictions.
Just before we do.
What do you want to say, Tommy?
It's not actually. So it's not actually George Russell. It's a lot less exciting, but just a weird one to mention is that Nico Hulkenberg's actually set to be disqualified because of excessive skid wear, which I know it's only 13th, but it's still an interesting point that it's going to be another disqualification, which of course happened to the Ferraris. And
thanks for bringing that up. Is that why you brought it up? Because it changes nothing about the points, mate.
It doesn't.
Just gone,
but
do you remember that time back in China?
Do you remember the time the Ferrari got disqualified?
Such a bleep.
But no, it is unusual that we're kind of seeing this happen again. Unusual that it shows how low these cars have run now with this kind of ground effect.
Absolutely. Okay, we now head to predictions, unless Tommy wants to add something else.
No, just that I really wish they'd made the Russell decision by now, because this could all change.
It's fine. Well, just wait a second.
We post a graphic, don't we? As well.
Yeah, but don't worry, because I've got something to tell you before when we're going into that. So just relax, just take a deep breath. So it's 9-6 to me coming into this, and we head to a good surprise. Mine was Yuki Tsunoda. I believe he was very good surprising, which is not good English, but it's definitely a point to me. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Sorry, you just disappeared.
You just glitched for a second,
I think Yuki Tsunoda, definitely a good surprise. I think we said it during our watch-along, didn't we, that when was the last time you could look at the timing tower and see 2 Red Bulls in the same kind of vision?
Yeah, never.
Feels like ages. So my good surprise was George Russell.
And this is where I'm going to come in, Tommy, because I'm going to give you a point no matter what. It doesn't matter if George gets a 5-second penalty. If he gets disqualified, you can get rid of your point. That's straight in the bin. But if it's a 5-second penalty, he'll still finish 4th. Charles Leclerc on the podium. That's still a W for me. But I think George had a phenomenal drive this weekend, so I'm not going to dispute it.
And you, of course, offered me 2 points as well, so thank you very much.
Wait, hold on a second.
The regret on your face immediately. You're like, oh no, actually, no. Let me think about this.
Oh my god, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, it was the double pointer because I had to change it from Yuki.
All right, relax.
So I deserve.
I'm going to change my offer. Okay, so
No.
if he stays in second, you get 2 points.
I knew you were going to say that.
If he gets a 5-second penalty, you get 1 point. Yeah, simple as. Oh god, why did I? Oh no. Okay, let's go to a big flop. I went for Charles Leclerc. That didn't kind of work, sadly. So I don't get a point, and he didn't win. So no one won for big flop, sadly.
And I went for Alex Albon, which he got knocked out. Well, he didn't get knocked out in Q1, and had his worst race of the season. So,
P12. So is that a flop?
That's a flop. He finished 5th, 7th, and 9th in the first few races.
Is that a flop though?
I think that's definitely.
Is that a sizable flop? That's very interesting.
It's on the fence, isn't it?
Seems like Michael Masseying is trying to occur here.
We'll put a TBC, shall we?
TBC, and we'll see what people say in the comments. Just so you're aware, Alex Albon finished 12th, and his teammate didn't finish, so realistically beat Sainz by 8 positions. So you
his fastest
vote
lap
however
was
you
2/10 off Sainz, so yeah, he was inferior driver this weekend.
Albon finished just behind a Mercedes, so that is a phenomenal drive from him. Pole position, I went for Lando Norris, and I did not get a point.
And I went for the other one, Oscar Piastri, and did get a point.
Congratulations.
In the 50-50 McLaren gamble this time.
This is actually concerning me. I haven't thought about this. So my top 3 were Norris, Piastri, Russell, which are all wrong, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I would love to know how many times I have gone for a Norris win and it's actually come in, because I think it's 0. I
think every
remember.
time you've predicted Norris to win in either the podcast or the graphic, he has a shocker. I genuinely feel like that's true. I genuinely think we could clip back, and it always seems to be the case. Yeah.
God, I'm so sorry, Lando fans. I really am. I don't mean it. I genuinely think he's going to win the race.
Yeah, well, he was favourite, you have to say. I went for Russell, Piastri, Norris. So of all those to be right, it was Norris in P3, which was a surprise.
Which might change.
And just on that, actually, yeah. So that might change. We might both end up with 0, of course.
Just like the FIA will put a graphic out on our social media with the updated scores.
I mean, we've shown a bit of wheel knowledge there. We've got the top 3, just in the wrong order.
Indeed. But not good enough wheel knowledge to score any points, or at least for me. Okay, let's go to the family top 3. It's currently 2-1 to the Bellinghams. Really, really happy about that. My mother went for 3rd place, Piastri, and that is wrong.
My dad went for P3, George Russell, which is wrong as of recording.
And will always be wrong.
And will always be wrong because
3-second
penalty. You never know. He got a 1-place grid penalty.
He loves an obscure penalty, doesn't he, Russell?
Yeah.
In 2nd place, Verstappen, my mum went for. Goodness gracious me. Does she want to lock in with some wheel knowledge? Are you going to say your 2nd place?
No, sorry.
Just chilling. All right, cool.
Sorry, 2 seconds.
Whoever's editing this one, really sorry, because there's been about 8 different edits across this podcast.
P2, Lando Norris. My dad went for, so wrong.
Wrong indeed. And in 1st place, my mum went for Norris.
And my dad went for Piastri, which is correct.
And it was looking like that was going to be.
He could have almost got the top 3.
Points,
I think he's probably gutted for not getting a 3-pointer, because we were one kind of Norris dive bomb away from potentially that happening. But it's another point for the Bellingham, so 3-1.
Oh, dearie me, we're going to have to Michael Massey the Gallagher's versus Bellingham's championship as well, aren't we? Because you are steaming ahead. One crazy prediction. I went for Carlos Sainz best of the rest, which was absolutely on. That was...
Yeah, it was actually.
He was fighting Gasly for P5, I think it was. I can't believe he's DNF'd.
Unlucky race. I went for Alpine score a point, which they absolutely did. Big
all right,
dub.
Mate. No one.
I'm on
you're
roll.
You're just a try-hard, aren't you, really? You don't need the 2 points for Russell now. You can get that in the bin. And then our Patreon prediction. Oh, for God's sake. I've had a stinker again. Alonso finishes in the points. JKM 92. Fantastic. That's 0 points.
Aston Martin
Alonso
are an
16th.
absolute joke, by the way. I'm sorry. Alonso switched a minute off the lead when he was...
Yeah.
Oh, what a joke. Yeah. And I went for pole position doesn't win the race, which, again, no.
Thank God that didn't come in. Otherwise, you'd be leading by 50 points. So, okay.
So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as of now. So that takes me to 11.
And that's 5 with an Alex Albon TBC.
That's not including Albon. So if we
that's what I mean.
That.
Oh, we're scrapping that. Okay.
Yeah.
Albon's, yeah.
I don't need it now. I'll take the win. We'll just no.
That's really annoyed me.
I know, as I can tell how much you care about it, and it's so funny. But yeah, at the moment it is. Oh wait, have I actually got this wrong?
You
wait,
added
1,
that correct. You came into it 9-6, and you scored 5. So how is 6 plus 5 10? It's 11.
No, 11.
Oh, so why have
I'm
you
doing
put it
10,
that
11, just because it keeps the same.
So for context, Tommy's just updated the sheet and put it in a strange order so that I didn't. So you are now leading 11-10.
11-10 it now.
That's ridiculous. I came
time.
into this with a 3-point lead. Hold on a sec. So in China, I went for the most ridiculous predictions ever and gained a point on you.
Yeah.
I went for a flipping McLaren 1-2 with a Russell third. Some very just solid predictions.
Solid, sensible predictions.
Nothing.
Yeah. Alonso gets a point.
1 point.
Norris pole. Just went for the safest. So, looking forward to Charles Leclerc being P1 in your predictions next week.
Yeah, we'll see about that one. Okay, that is it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this podcast for the Bahrain Grand Prix. I hope you enjoyed the race. I certainly did. I know Tommy did as well. We can go and see some Patreons now for 15 minutes. Patreon.com/MattP1Tommy if you want to tune in for a bit longer for these race review podcasts. Tommy, what are your final thoughts?
Final thoughts are just so after the disappointment of Suzuka, it's just so great to see an exciting Formula One race again that I didn't have to complain about the whole time and just have some positivity and just enjoy why we love Formula One all over again.
Exactly. Thank you, everybody. It's race week literally tomorrow. Saudi Arabian Grand Prix this weekend coming, as in next weekend. And we'll see you there. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.
Right, we just finished the podcast and we were doing our Patreon waffle, but this is now being included at the end of the podcast because we need to still mention it. And the fact is that George Russell is not getting a penalty. So the FIA document came out and essentially, in a nutshell, because there's a lot of words, he accidentally opened his DRS and gained 0.02 of a second, but he gave up time, and that showed in the telemetry. And with all of the issues that was going on in the Mercedes car, with the fact that whatever gain he had, he gave up, there was no sporting advantage considered to be gained from the stewards, which is fair enough, and therefore no penalty is applied. So George Russell, P2, locks in a lovely 18 points.
Indeed, and it also mentions that it's a kind of it's a car problem, but it's not from Mercedes' issue, if you like. So that's probably why they've been a bit more lenient in the. So
the car failed. And this was to do with the DRS activation system due to issues with a timing loop provided by an external party. But then that's caused the authorized manual activation of the DRS, which then caused more problems. So maybe, there were a lot of factors
So
going
when we had
on.
that conversation about, if it's slam dunk, if Mercedes had a car issue, it wasn't Mercedes' car issue. That this is something that's outside of their control. So that's understandably why they've been lenient and chosen for no penalty.
Yeah, so there's definitely been consideration there, and fair
I actually
enough.
think they just wanted me to have
gained.
the predictions championship lead. I think that's the clear
that
thing.
It did actually say that in the bottom of the FIA doc. Congrats,
did,
Tom Bellingham, up the Bellinghams. I think it said actually at the end. So, all right, see you later.
Bye.